Start with my greeting. Good morning to our friends in North and South America. Nice to see you. Good afternoon to our friends in the UK and Europe. Good early evening to our friends in the Middle East and India. Good evening to our friends in Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia. Good late evening to our friends in Australia. Nice to see you. We have a question, Shunxian.
Question 1. Dear Ajahn, as a follow-up to the last session's exploration about Devas and Buddhist cosmology, may I ask, how does this benefit or support our focus upon present moment mindfulness and concentration development? Thank you.
Good question. So again, it's a sophisticated subject, this one, the existence of parallel lower and higher realms that is linked closely to the existence of past and future lives and the matrix of karma. All of these things kind of work as a package. And so I'm going to be giving a bit of a meandering exploration and make some, you kind of have to be a bit meandering. I don't think you can encompass all of the samsaric experience in a without meandering a little bit. That's part of what we have to deal with, isn't it? We've been wandering around in various places for a while now. So essentially, I guess I want to say right in the beginning that Lord Buddha, the teacher of the middle way, I think with this subject, these subjects, there is also a middle way. So I don't think it's, we're not aiming to become fascinated with or too excited about the good forces in the universe. But we also don't want to become too dejected or scared of the darker, negative, demonic forces in the universe. I think what it's good to aim for is opening the mind to these things as being a part of ordinary conventional reality and taking it on board as kind of normal. So what do I mean by that? So it's like you can be in your mindful of your four elements body in this human birth with this human opportunity, and you can be grounded within that. And also be aware that there may well be devas in the trees and serpent spirits in the rivers and devas high in the air and ghosts under the ground and hell beings deep down below. And just aware that that's probably the case. Now, why would I assert that it's probably the case? We can go to the suttas, the Theravadan Pali Canon, where the very same suttas where Lord Buddha teaches the Eightfold Path, the Four Noble Truths, but he explains his teaching himself as that which leads to heaven and beyond. In the very first sutta, at the end of the sutta, when he's taught the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, he makes the statement, the Dharma wheel has been sent into the world, and no Brahma or Deva or Mara can stop it. It's just a very interesting thing. So the thing I'm going to keep pointing to is that I don't think like awareness of Devas and heavens and parallel realms is like absolutely central. It's not the thing we need to give most of our attention to. But the point I am making is it's always there. And if it's always there, it's there for a reason. So, and the reason is Lord Buddha understood conventional reality, conventional truth, and penetrated to and experienced ultimate truth. So for modern people who've been somewhat socialized or conditioned to doubt these things, it doesn't seem normal because we've been taught that it's not, many of us. But if you look at most of human history, this kind of materialist annihilationist tendency is like a blip on the screen. It's an anomaly, actually. You look at all primitive cultures, shamanic cultures, all other religions, the kind of awareness of spirits and the spirit world has been pretty consistent, part of what human beings consider in their worldview. So if we start at the beginning, I think it's Digha Nikaya number 14. I'll double check just to be sure. Yes. Lord Buddha says, and it's really important to pay attention to the word that he uses, it is normal in the case of the Bodhisattva that he descends from the heaven of the contented into his mother's womb for his final birth. So it is normal. That's the place where the great Bodhisattva lives and resides as in the life before he has to come down to the human realm. Lord Buddha explains, this is in a sutta, often Lord Buddha explains things to Ananda, of course, because Ananda committed them to memory and relayed them in the Great Council, etc. So he's explaining to Ananda, although Ananda is I love Ananda, he's one of my favorites. But Ananda is saying, it's wonderful, it's marvelous. And the Buddha is saying, it's normal. It's normal. And as the Bodhisattva descends to the earth into his mother's womb, there is a flash of light that fills all of the conditioned reality. So that he even says the beings in the dismal world are able to see each other for a moment. Beings in dark interspaces, in the abyss, in hell, are able to see each other. It's a flash of light that fills a conditioned world. What is that? Okay, Lord Buddha's been cultivating virtue and merit and qualities for asankhya, that's an imponderably long period of time, plus 100,000 eons. An eon is like from the Big Bang, expansion and contraction, one eon, 100,000 of those. So the merit that this being has accumulated, that he's coming down into the world with, that's the flash of light. Lord Buddha says this is normal because you don't get to be in the queue and to become the Buddha without having put in all of that effort and accumulated all of that virtue and beautiful qualities. That's the light, that's the brightness, and it's a wonderful thing. The Bodhisattva came down, and then the Buddha says it is normal. From the moment the Bodhisattva is in his mother's womb, that he is guarded by the 4 celestial kings of the Chatu Maharaja, the first heaven realm. And for me, this is just a nice consideration. This is like, many of the people who listen to my sharings of Chinese ethnicity, Malaysians, Singaporeans, Indonesians, and if you come into your Chinese temples, there will be the 4 kings at the entrance hall. And so oftentimes we walk past them, oh yeah, whatever. But it's nice to think, actually, these guys guarded the Bodhisattva in his mother's womb from the moment of inception. So when you're passing through next time, you say, oh, thanks, guys. Thanks for protecting the Bodhisattva. Thanks for, doing your part for helping us to have the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings in the world. It's just nice. It brings them to life. It's like these people are real, conventionally speaking. They have roles, they have functions, they bring blessings, they bring protection. Thank you. Wonderful. Sadhu. And it makes it real. But like I say, we don't need to get too fascinated, but we just take it on board. Okay, seems like there are heaven realms, seems like there are devas, and they have their role, their function to play. Then it is normal in the case of bodhisattvas, when they're born in their final birth, for Saka Devaraja, king of the gods in the heaven of the 33, Tawatimsa the heaven of the contented, and Brahma, a Brahma deity, to, catch him as he's born and participate in the bathing. So it's like someone with an ordinary eye might not be able to see that, but somebody with a divine eye would. But even ordinary people might feel some sense of brightness, presence, magic, something special happening. So this is normal in the conditioned world. Then when the Buddha strives and has his realization, it's often described I wanted to just bring in a few sutta references. It's often described that the Buddha reviewed his past lives and he became mindful of the arising and ceasing due to karma of beings in cyclic existence, and then had the insights into the anicca, the codependent arising of there being nothing solid and unchanging in the whole experience of samsara, the sankharas. But there's another sutta where it actually explains that it gives us a little bit of a glimpse into the Buddha's exploration with more detail. So at one point in his meditation under the Bodhi tree, sitting on his 8 bundles of kusa grass, he becomes aware of light. And then he becomes aware of forms in the light. And then he becomes aware that those forms are beings. And then he decides to have some conversations with them. And so he sees that they are devas in heaven realms. And he asks, why were you born here? What were the causes for your being born here? And then he asks them, did I used to know you? So that's when it's getting personal. Did I know you? And then the devas are explaining to him, yeah, you were up in this realm with me, this many lives ago, as a result of such and such a merit. Yeah, I remember you. And then it's like, so it's making it personal and intimate, that the Buddha is having conversations with beings in those parallel realms or higher realms. And they're saying, yeah, I know you, remember me? And they know each other, because someone who's been cultivating virtue for that long is going to have a lot of lives in heaven. And those beings in heaven also, particularly the king of the devas, they're also going to know other good people who've been doing good things for a long time. So it's like, just like you and I might remember our favorite auntie because of the kind things she did, or our favorite teacher because they gave us some attention or answered our irritating questions, whatever it was. These guys, the devas, remember, yeah, I remember when you did that incredibly good thing and then you were in the heaven of the contented for 10 eons. Or it's like that. Like, to them, it's an intimate, personal experience of friendship, of cultivating goodness together. So they're aware of one another. And they would have been aware of the bodhisattva and approaching his final life for a long, long, long time. And it says at the end of the Dhammacakka Sutta that the heaven of the Bulma devas rejoice, the devas in the realm of the 4 kings rejoice. Then the Yama devas rejoice, the Davatimsa devas rejoice, the Tushita devas rejoice, up to the Brahma devas, because they're, yay, he's finally done it. He's been working on this for so long, and they're very happy. And then there are the devas with wrong view that won't be happy, because not long after the Buddha's enlightenment, Mara came, rallied his forces, as they say, in a very, very frightful, scary manner, beings with wrong view. And they literally threw weapons. Again, you might not see anything with a normal eye, but in the parallel realms, there are beings committed to darkness for a period of time that do not like good people who cultivate goodness. And it's said that because of the power of the virtue of the Buddha, when those weapons hit his aura, they change to flowers. So Mara's army is throwing all their weapons at him. And what the Buddha is seeing is a rain of blossoms falling around him, because that's the extent of his goodness and virtue. Nothing can stop the Buddha in his final life, which is just wonderful. So these things can be very uplifting to consider. The question is, how does this help us in our cultivation? So if we want insight, we need to have some samadhi. If we want some samadhi, we need to meditate fairly consistently, fairly frequently. So a sense of spiritual urgency is very helpful. And so if a person, for example, thinks there's just this life, if you have that belief, consciousness dies with the body, what would the point be of trying to strive for any kind of spiritual enlightenment? I don't think there's much point. If you're going through a difficult period of time, you think this is just one life, there's only one life, it's not really working, what's to restrain you from suicide? Doesn't matter. Kill the body, consciousness dies, it's too hard. So this is one of the dangers of having the materialist view, there's not really much motivation, there's not much inspiration, there's not much energy to do something without. But if you don't think you actually have much potential, you're just some kind of one blip on the 7 billion human being screen that's going to fade when the body dies. Pretty depressing, actually. Life just doesn't have much meaning. And if you believe that, then well, what's to stop you from being unethical, immoral? You might then draw the conclusion, well, I've just got this life. There's no God. There's no karma. Mean people succeed. I'm just going to live my life to have as much fun as possible. I don't care who I rip off. I don't care whose feelings I'm. It's all about me having fun this life. Screw you. Okay, a very dangerous worldview. A lot of people have it these days. If you have that worldview, and if it turns out that karma and rebirth is real, you're in trouble. Because whatever you did that was unskillful and unethical, that caused pain and suffering to others, that'll be coming back to you multiplied. So if we do believe that there is karma and there is rebirth, that's going to affect us in the present moment. You don't want to do something really unskillful. You don't want to embrace a really negative or unskillful mind state. You don't want to act it out because you know, you have faith or you believe that you're going to have to live with the consequences of that. So this helps us also to focus on our opportunity that we have. We understand that every unskillful deed we do will have consequences. Every bit of laziness has consequences. But also every skillful deed, every kind deed, every generous deed, every little bit of effort that we put into our practice is cultivating those 5 spiritual powers, the faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and wisdom. Another valuable, potent reflection about the present moment Dhamma is what mind states we allow our minds to pick up and dwell in. If we combine this with our death meditation, then if you take on cosmology as a working paradigm, a likely blueprint of conventional reality, because Lord Buddha refers to it consistently and talks about it as an aspect of right view, skillful view, if you take that on, then what does it mean if you get really, really angry, you're upset about something and you're really angry, and then you start to think about the revenge you want to take, and you start to think that that person hurt me, I want to hurt them back. I want them to feel as bad as they made me feel bad. In fact, I want them to feel worse. Suppose you die in that moment. This is where it becomes real. This is where it becomes more than a theory. This is one of the things we have to ask ourselves. We don't just do death meditation. We do awareness of rebirth meditation. You're really angry. You want to cause harm. You're committed to taking revenge. Your mind state is, I want to cause that person as much pain as I can. I want them to suffer as much as possible because they hurt me. I want to take my revenge. You die in that moment, probably going to hell. Or a yaka, an ogre with a lot of anger. Or a naga, a black naga with poison. A really, really nasty dog with big teeth. A wolf. A black bear, any number of places you can go if you have a lot of dosa in your mind. So it's a really good thing to ask yourself, if I die now, this is really helpful. If you come to meditate and you've got a heavy, difficult mind state that you can't let go, I find this to be a really skillful means. Ask yourself, if I die right now, where will I be born? Might I die today? You may actually. And then it becomes really real. Okay, well, then I'm motivated to let go of this mind state. What if it's lust? What if you decided that, yeah, okay, he's my best friend, but I like his girlfriend. I like her so much, and I just can't live without her, and I need this pleasure, so I'm going to have that affair. I think she's into it. I think she's into me. I'm going to have an affair with my best friend's girlfriend. And come what may, that's what I need to do to fulfill my life. Because whatever people do to justify such things, obviously it occurs. So people do justify these things. So you've got a lot of lust, you're having covetous thoughts. I'm going to take this pleasure from that person, even though she's committed to someone else. You die in that moment. What are you going to be born as? I live in Asia where the dogs don't live in yards. The dogs wander around the village. So I get to see the dogs in mating season. It's not a pretty sight. Sniffing genitals, jumping on anything that's available, humping away. So this is where that kind of mind state leads to. Like, you want to be sniffing lots of genitals? You want to be humping away? Excuse me, just being frank, I was born in Australia and we tend to be straight talkers. So Luang Por was also an earthy straight talker. We're talking about reality. The consequences of what you think and what you do and what you say is real. So it might not need to be a person. If you're looking at a screen and you're looking at you're looking at lots of genitals on a screen and you're allowing your mind to give you that a lot of attention for hours and hours and hours, that has consequences too. You can ask yourself, what if I die right now? Where will I be reborn? So, good questions. How does it help us? It helps us to be truly present in the moment, and it helps us to recognize the value of the opportunity that we have. That's the wonderful thing about understanding the law of karma, is that every single moment and every single day gives you the opportunity to cultivate the causes that will support your liberation. And coming back to, I'll just tell a couple of more stories. So the Saka Devaraja, the king of the gods, receives the bodhisattva when he's born. And there is the sutta where Saka goes to visit the Buddha in Rajgir, and he asks questions, and Lord Buddha answers those questions. And then Lord Buddha uses the same phrase that is used when Anya Kondanya attained to stream entry. The Dharma eye opened in Saka. So wonderful. There we have the same suttas, which are talking about human beings having insight, attaining to the stream. Lord Buddha is having a conversation with the king of the Devas. He has an insight. He has an immaculate vision of Dhamma. This is, to me, this is just wonderful, because it means that even if you're a Deva, if you have the right inclination, you're interested in listening to Dhamma, you have respect and faith in Buddhas, you have the potential to become enlightened as a Deva. That's good news. And to think that there is like another thing that I think the awareness of Devas helps us in this life for, it's like we have to face it. The world's looking pretty dark, pretty negative. It's like it's a lot of wars, a lot of famines, a lot of scarcity, a lot of wealth transfer, disparity in wealth, all of these things, making life rather complicated, difficult for a lot of people. If that's the world we're stuck in and we're kind of closed, and that's, it's depressing. How are you going to stop yourself from getting cynical? How are you going to stop yourself from getting depressed if that's all we have? But if you're aware that the king of the gods is a stream enterer, and I'm pretty sure it says, is it my research assistant is sitting over there, Michi Emily? Does it say 84,000 deities? 80,000. Okay, so 80,000 of the deities who were in the retinue of Saka also attained to the Dhamma eye. So for me, it's like, isn't that wonderful? On that one occasion, there's 80,000 more Sotapannas in Dawatingsa heaven. Nice. It's like when you think of Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, Arya Sangha, somebody who is well practiced and level of the mind has become one of the noble ones. It doesn't need to be a bhikkhu or a bhikkhuni wearing a robe. It can be a well-practiced Deva who has understood Dhamma. They become part of the Sangha, the Arya Sangha. So, things like this are just like brightening. It's like, okay, this world might be going to hell in a handbasket, a French saying, a US saying. But in the other world, there's millions of Devas who are Aryans, and they're the ones that I want to meet with in my next life. I want those Kalyana Mittas. I'm committed to the path of goodness, heaven and beyond. So it's like a huge positive affirmation of what we're committed to and where we're going. And it's extremely encouraging if one can take it on. So there was the example of when Saka took the form of a Brahmin youth and danced and recited poetry. I love Saka, by the way. I'm a fan of Saka. He's probably my favorite Sotapanna because because he gets to have fun and he gets to be cool, but he also gets to be an Aryan. So He's a nice example of a fun Aryan. So, he's handsome, he's reciting poetry, he's doing a little dance, and he gets to walk in front of the Buddha. Like, why is that possible? Okay, because he's put millions of lives into accumulating incredible virtue. Can you imagine? You're the emperor of a heaven realm. It doesn't come without causes. He has that right because of the enormous amount of merit. So he gets to kind of trumpet the verses about the wonderfulness of the victorious sage returning to Rajgir. And then he wasn't a Sotapanna then, but not long afterwards, he had the eye of Dhamma. So, but one thing I wanted to mention, because I always try to make it a little bit relevant to the recent history, because we can get this idea that it was like, okay, in the time of the Buddha, incredible merits, all of these amazing things, but our world seems somehow much more mundane and boring and tedious and tawdry. So, when Ajahn Chah was at Papong founding his monastery, apparently one night a green light shone in the sky from one portion of the monastery and flew to another portion of the forest. And then, interestingly enough, that became the boundary of what Nong Pa Pong, Ajahn Chah's monastery. So it doesn't get mentioned much, but it did happen. People saw it. Apparently, that was Saka Devaraja, king of the Devas, who is green, coming and marking out the territory, giving his blessing for Ajahn Chah's monastery, which was going to have enormously positive consequences for this world. Again, it's not central. You don't absolutely have to believe it, but it happened. At Ajahn Anand's monastery, there was a green light hovering in the sky above his dana hall. People saw it 5 kilometers away. What was that green light lighting up Wat Mapjan for hours last night? Apparently that was Saka's jewel, Indra's jewel, green jewel, shining, giving the blessing to that monastery. I spent a rainy season retreat in one of Ajahn Anand's branch monasteries, my 6th Pansa, Tanajan Tong. I was meditating at the time, so I didn't see it, but they were going to build an Uposatha hall in one place, but a green light came and hung in the sky in a different part of the monastery, hovered there for some minutes. And then they felt that Saka Devaraja was saying, this is the right place for the Uposatha hall. So they changed the plan and they built it in another place. So, don't think that Saka Devaraja appeared in the sutras 2,600 years ago and then went back to heaven and forgot everything. He supports virtue, that he's a kind, benevolent being who rejoices in virtue and supports the virtuous. So he didn't just love the Buddha, he loved the Sangha, he loved the Sasana, and the Sasana supports people cultivating goodness. So of course, the King of the Devas is going to support people cultivating goodnesses and the places where goodness is cultivated. I remember I was in Bodh Gaya when I was first offered this first piece of land that became a Nandagiri monastery. I had a dream that a huge green naga came and landed on this land. Dragon, huge green dragon. I'm talking about 1 kilometer long. And his tail went down the ridge of the back part of the monastery, and then he came to lie on the ground where my kuti is now, and the dana hall is, and the meditation hall is, and then his head was... What's interesting is the place where the dragon landed is now what the land that Anandagiri has. Anandagiri has 75 acres. When I was first considering accepting the land, it was 7 acres. So, and that was one of the things that, like I say, I wouldn't give these things absolute central importance, but I do take it on as another piece of interesting information worth considering. So for myself, should I take this? Is it worth developing? Do I really want to do this? When I had a dream that something descended from heaven onto this land and lay on this land, that would seem to be a good thing. I discussed it with my teachers. Yeah, okay, good. And then 10 years later, we can see that exactly where the dragon landed became Anandagiri with its green forest 14 years later. Very interesting. So I can talk about, I will mention a name. We have to be a bit careful, but I think this bhikkhu won't mind being mentioned. So When we had a relic enshrining ceremony, we had 3 of them at when we were putting relics in the Anandagiri Chedi. Lumpur Biek came to one of these. In the night before, when we did the chanting in the area, after the chanting, I would go to his kuti and say, Lumpur, did anything come? What came? What special came? Any kind of special blessings? And he said, Saka Deva Raja came, multiplied, emanated emanation bodies, filling the sky, rained down silver and gold celestial flowers. And when those silver and gold celestial flowers hit the auras of the people who were attending the ceremony, they changed to wish-fulfilling jewels. So what is a wish-fulfilling jewel? What's a celestial flower? Well, if you don't have the divine eye, you wouldn't see it. You wouldn't know. But if a person was smart and their mind was, you would feel something. You would probably feel some sense of light and lightness and brightness and upliftment. If a person was smart in that moment, they might have made their wish. Okay, may I sell that piece of land so that I can retire? Or may I, whatever it is. But a lot of people probably wouldn't have because they didn't know. They would sort of, oh, that felt really nice. I felt this interesting sense of rapture. That was a really nice ceremony. They didn't know that they had a Indra's wish-fulfilling jewel in their aura that would have multiplied their chances of having their wishes fulfilled. But it was pretty cool. And it's like, if anyone is going to have that ability, why wouldn't it be the king of the Devas? There's got to be a reason all the Devas respect him. So I hear that story. Personally, I don't doubt it. And I think, oh, great. Indra came and multiplied emanation bodies, rained down celestial flowers and wish-fulfilling jewels. I'm okay with that. Very happy that happened in this monastery. And Ajahn Biek said several of the people who were attending the ceremony had been Indra's children, you see. So there wasn't just Lumpur Biek's special abilities. It was the karmic affinity of the people who attended the ceremony that had the karmic connection with Indra. So these things also happen in this day and age. There's another sutta, is it the Mahasamaya Sutta, also in the Digha Nikaya, I believe. This apparently happens in every Buddha's lifetime where there's a huge congregation of Devas, and it's said that most of the Devas from this world and other worlds come to honor the Buddha at least once in his life. So, as I was saying earlier, a lot of the beings deeply committed to goodness who've been cultivating great goodness for a long time, they will know about the Bodhisattva because of all of the wonderful things that he did that they personally saw and rejoiced in. And when he's in his final life, they want to come and honor all of that goodness, the culmination of all of that goodness. So there's a huge gathering of Devas. You can read the sutta, and apparently this happens in all Buddha's lives. When you look at the Mahaparinibbana Sutta, at one point, Lord Buddha asked the bhikkhu who was fanning him to step aside because the Devas wanted to see the Buddha, and I guess they couldn't see through the 4-element body of that bhikkhu. And the Buddha explained that there was not a pin prick of space for 20 leagues that did not have a Deva. They can adjust their size. And so for 20 leagues, it's quite a big distance, was absolutely full, dense with Devas that wanted to glimpse the Buddha in his final life before he attained Mahaparinibbana and then would not be able to be seen in the conditioned reality anymore. So it's there. It's there from the beginning. It's there till the end. And as I've said several times, it's not absolutely central. But what I hope is that people be able to take it on as likely, probable, and that be a source of joy and confidence and inspiration. That whatever effort you make in cultivating goodness is going to have good, happy consequences for you in your future. Whatever effort you put into cultivating spiritual qualities, that is going to be bringing your enlightenment closer to you. Just reviewing, if there's anything I haven't said yet. Yeah, so with regards developing insight, the skillful perspective about the nature of the conditioned world hopefully gets us to our meditation pillow. It's like we understand that Buddhas only arise occasionally. Long periods of time when there aren't Buddhas in the world. Apparently there was 20 eons before this eon where there were no Buddhas. Siki and Wesabu, 20 eons ago, then 20 eons with no Buddhas at all. This eon they call the fortunate eon because there will be 5. Gautama Buddha Shakyamuni is the 4th, Maitreya yet to come. So when we have the cosmological and samsaric perspective, then that should help us recognize the good fortune that we have right now and the special opportunity that we have right now. And then that inspires us to use the opportunity that we have and don't waste it. It also inspires us to not be heedless, that we recognize this is rare, this is special, this is valuable, this is my opportunity. I need to avail myself of it. And if people can't take it on yet, that's also okay. I would just say don't dismiss it, to have an open mind. After my last talk, somebody sent me a message and they taught me an interesting phrase. Sounds very smart. Epistemological humility. Isn't that a great phrase? We can all become a little bit smarter. Maybe some of you knew it already. What does it mean, epistemological humility? What it means is the acknowledgement that we don't know everything yet. We can't see everything yet. And with that attitude becomes a willingness to become aware of and receive extra information and then change one's understanding. Because we simply recognize, I don't know everything, I can't see everything. I have my working assumptions. But if I get new information, new experiences, I'm going to upgrade my worldview and incorporate my new understanding. So don't assume. This is the thing. We're unenlightened because of greed, hatred, and delusion. What is delusion? It's because we're ignorant to the absolute truth, ultimate truth, that we are deluded. What does deluded mean? Deluded means we don't see things perfectly clearly yet. And one of the dangers of delusion is it doesn't present itself that way. Delusion often presents itself as, I know what's right, I know what's wrong. And not sure. Epistemological humility. I know some things. I think I know what's right. When I get new information, have some new experiences, then I might upgrade my understanding. I remember saying to one of my teachers once, who has a lot of gifts in this area, I said to him, must be so wonderful, must be so exciting to be able to see like all the devas that come into, and all of these beings that come on these occasions, like how many devas and how many bodhisattvas and how many nagas. And he looked at me and he says, it's because I'm not excited that I can see them, Achalo. So, which is because if you, and that's a very profound statement, because 4th jhana, which is pure equanimity, is the foundation for the psychic powers. So it's because that bhikkhu knows how to make his mind profoundly still and centered and balanced, comes out of that experience with huge amounts of clarity, then he can see all of that. And like I said, the phrase that the Buddha used, it is normal. It is normal. For that bhikkhu was saying, it's normal for the nagas and the devas and the bodhisattvas to be there. For him, it's normal. He can see that. So it's the same thing. Eyes seeing sights, ears hearing noises, but it's more subtle. He just has much better eyes, much better ears. And he's able to see so much more because his mind is much more still and much more pure. So anyway, it is good to know such beings. One question that was, I will answer one question. One question was, is deity yoga beneficial? Can it lead to enlightenment? So deity yoga is practiced in the Vajrayana when one takes, probably Hinduism as well, when one takes a example of a deity and recollects their good qualities. So my understanding of it is a samatha practice. It makes the mind bright. And this is the foundation for insight. So that practice itself doesn't necessarily lead to the insight into anicca, dukkha, anatta, the three characteristics. But it gladdens the mind, brightens the mind, and then that makes the mind malleable and receptive to investigating the truth of the characteristics. So it's a good samatha practice. And in one of the suttas about, I want to give you actual sutta numbers. Ajahn Nacho isn't making this up. On the suttas about the benefits of devatanusati, Lord Buddha describes that the 5 qualities that arise: faith, ethical conduct, learning, generosity, and wisdom. So one rejoices in those qualities of the devas. You rejoice in their faith, their virtue, their learning, their generosity, their wisdom. And then the mind becomes like that it attends to. So when you think of things with noble qualities, ethical qualities, virtuous qualities, it's like a tuning fork, and you're inclining the mind towards that. It's one of the reasons it's so valuable. And then your Lord Buddha explains that sotapannas have those same qualities. So it's like a sotapanna has learning and wisdom and faith and ethical conduct, etc. So what happens is when you contemplate deities, you recollect their learning, their wisdom, their virtue, etc., you develop more of that. You're making your mind already more like a sotapannas, and that's the foundation to be able to have the insight. So these things are linked. Devanusati, making one's own mind. I once asked another of my teachers, can devas become enlightened? And he said, only devas become enlightened. I said, what do you mean? What about the human beings? He said, yeah, but the human beings who became enlightened had minds like devas. And then there's the example that we mentioned earlier, that Indra received a teaching, 80,000 deities that attended the teaching and also heard it, also attained to the immaculate Dhamma vision. So devas do attain to enlightenment. And if you want to, you have to make your mind like a deva. And I wish you every success in that process. So I hope something I've shared may have been helpful or encouraging to you. Yeah. So I wish you well. Hope to see you again in another fortnight. Do lots of practice. New Year's resolutions now. Increase your efforts at sitting and walking, chanting, listening to Dhamma. Okay.